Hey guys, this is a targeted video to learn how to do the dihybrid crosses with the sex chromosomes. So far we've learned how to do it with the autosomes, which are chromosomes 1 through 22 in your body, and they help to determine most of your bodily structures, but your sex chromosomes are going to be especially to determine your sexual characteristics, and they operate a little bit differently. How do they operate differently? Well, we know that a male is XY, so they have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome in their 23rd pair. Now, the females are going to have two X's. What's interesting is that many different traits are often linked to the X chromosome, and they can be dominant or recessive, and that can affect how they are inherited in males differently than they are inherited in females. So let's use the color blindness as an example. So color blindness is a recessive allele that exists only on the X chromosome. In other words, it's linked to the X chromosome. So capital B is dominant, and it means that you don't have it, and lowercase b is recessive, and it means that you have it. Okay, now how do we write this out? Well, you can write the allele, the capital or lowercase letter, as an exponent on the X to show it's part of the X chromosome. So for example, you can see here I've got the X's with the little exponents that show the alleles above them. So basically I could either have a male with the dominant allele on the X chromosome, or I could have a male with the lowercase or recessive allele on the chromosome. But you'll notice that it's a little bit different for the females. Because they have two X's, they could either have two copies of the dominant, one copy of the dominant, one copy of the recessive, or two recessive. So this is very much more like the Mendelian stuff that we've been looking at, like a normal autosome. Whereas the males, well, it's tough because they only have one copy of the X. They have a 50-50 shot of getting the disease because it's going to be inherited with just that one X. They don't have a second one to try to kind of balance it out. So how do you actually put this together? All right, so let's take a look at the example. All right, so we are told that not having color blindness is dominant to color blindness. Okay, good. So we're going to start with that. All right, we have a capital B, okay, and I'm going to say that means no color blindness, so no CB. And then we have lowercase b, which means that you have color blindness or CB. Okay. All right, then we have green eyes are dominant to hazel eyes. All right, so capital G equal, oh, that's a terrible looking G, equals green eyes. All right, and then we have lowercase g is going to equal hazel eyes. Okay, so this is basically the information that we're given. Now, let's take a look at the individuals we're actually going to be crossing. Okay, so if you bred a male without color blindness that has hazel eyes. Okay, male without color blindness that has hazel eyes. Now remember, the male only has one X. So X, and he does not have color blindness, therefore he must have the capital B. He must have a Y because he is male, and then it says he has hazel eyes. The only way to get hazel eyes because it's recessive is to have two copies of the recessive allele. That's the male. We're going to be crossing the male with a female heterozygous for color blindness and for green eyes. So she's heterozygous for both, so she's actually easy. Big letter, small letter, big letter, small letter. So she looks very much like a Mendelian thing. He looks a little bit different. Okay, and actually I should have written her with the X's because that's the whole point here, right? So it's going to be X, capital B, X, lowercase b, and then big G, little g. Excuse me. Yes, big G, little g. All right, so this is our cross. Now you might be thinking, oh my God, this is going to be terrible to try to figure out what their gametes look like, but not really at all. Okay, so let's take the male. All right, so we have, it's just going to look slightly different, but it's basically the exact same thing. So like, definitely don't panic. All right. So in this case, for the male, the gametes that the male could pass on are either the X with the dominant B allele and a lowercase g, the X with the dominant B allele or a lowercase g, because I used two different of those. The Y allele and the lowercase g, or the Y allele and the lowercase g. So the male, these are the combinations that the male could possibly make, and you'll see that there are only really two combinations. I just had to mix them together. I used the same process that I did in the last video I showed, though, right? Just use the first allele and you distribute it among the second two, and then again the same allele and distribute it to the other one, and then you just go through all the different possible combinations. So that's for the male, and then for the female, okay, she was X capital B, X lowercase b, and then she was capital G lowercase g, right? Okay, so then in this case, the female is going to be able to have either this capital B with the capital G, or the capital B with the lowercase g. or the lowercase b with the capital G, or the lowercase b with lowercase g. So these are all the possible combinations for the mom. And then we have all the possible combinations we can put together. We just literally put that together into our dihybrid cross. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the rectangle. Hopefully this actually becomes a rectangle. Good God, yes, okay. All right, and then remember 3 lines down. So 1 and 2. I'm going to try to make these a little bit more like the same size, but I can already see that's failing, so I apologize. 1, 2, 3 lines down, 3 lines across, 3, and we're good to go. So now we're just going to distribute all these gametes that we went ahead and came up with. All right, so these right here. All right, so I'm going to start with the dad. X big B lowercase g, X big B lowercase g. So X big B lowercase g, X big B lowercase g, and then of course I think it's just Y lowercase g, Y lowercase g, yeah. So Y lowercase g and Y lowercase g. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the mom. So mom, X big B big G. Okay. And then X big B lowercase g. Okay. And then X lowercase g big G. Or X, oh God, you know what I mean. And now I'm getting, and then X lowercase b lowercase g. Then you just go ahead and you distribute them. Now, x's always go before y's. We'll just go ahead and kind of call that. All right, so we have X big B, and then we have big G, little g. And it might be kind of hard to write out, and it'll take you a little bit longer to be able to write this out. But there's a couple of different things that I want us to see once it's done. So if you are watching this and don't feel like watching me fill out all of these little boxes, please skip ahead to a point where you can tell that I am no longer filling out all of the boxes. And I will do my very best to make that time in the very near future. But if you want to hang around, go for it. If you're just checking your work or just bored out of your skull, don't have anything else to do, think biology is terrible, you know, oh my God, why am I doing this? I'm never going to use this again in my life. I'm going to be at this big important business meeting and I'm going to be thinking, man, biology was useless. No, I'm just kidding. Biology is awesome. You might never use it again, but it's kind of cool, right? You know. At the very least, it'll give you an appreciation of all the stuff you see on the news, like global warming, and you know, discovering new species in Costa Rica. Or you might hate it, and I'm sorry. Wasn't a big fan of it in high school myself, but I have come around. And it really does take just for absolutely forever to write this out by a mouse too. I don't even have a stylus. Should have invested in one of those. Well, oh my God. Okay, we're done. All right, we made it. All right. Whew, whew. Okay, so now we get to figure out the phenotypes that we were looking for. So how many children would have green eyes and be colorblind? Okay, notice it didn't ask us for any particular sex of the children. So any child that has green eyes and be colorblind. Now, because there's a difference between the male and the females, there's several different things we're looking for here. Okay, green eyes and colorblind. All right, well, we know green eyes are dominant, so there's two different ways we could get green eyes. Okay, we could either have and colorblind, right? So we could either have big G or big G little g. So that's how you get green eyes. Colorblindness, there's only one way that we could get colorblindness in males, which is to have the little b, excuse me. So we're looking for X little b. Okay, and then either X little b, Y, big G, or we could have X little b, Y, big G, little g. And that's all of the combos that would create this for a male, a child with color blindness and green eyes. Or for the females, we could have X little b, X little b, big G, or we could have X little b, and big G, little g. These are all possible combinations for children that would have green eyes and would be colorblind. So then we just go through and we pick out how many of each of these that we see as we go through. And yeah, that's it's going to be an endeavor for sure. So down here, I can see that none of these are going to be it, and none of these are going to be it because I see two little g's. So none of those are. So these two rows are out. This row right here, yep, that'll do it. Yep, that'll do it as